Oh, let me get myself on muted. What up? What up? Happy Monday to everybody. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I want to make sure we good on all of these ends. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody, man. Good to see y'all. Hope y'all had a great weekend. Having a lovely day so far. Get everybody in here. Get my I want to make sure I got you good over here. Yo, I see some people in the room already. L Bugs in the room already. I want to get my other monitor going on. Yeah, we're gonna talk a lot today. I mean, everything from the BET Hip Hop Awards nominees that have been released. Kendrick got 11 nominations. Megan Thee Stallion got 12 nominations. We got a new Future album or mixtape, however you want to say it. MC Lyte dropped a new album, first album in 9 years. Blue drops an album, and we got everything from Diddy to Young Dolph's trial going on. But you know what? I want to start this off, man, because the 21st anniversary, excuse me, of Outkast Speaker Box Love Below album. It's crazy how fast time flies, man. I remember going to get that album, and this is during I was actually interning in radio at that time, aging myself and all of that. But I remember getting that album, being very excited about it. I heard a few songs on both sides. I think the first song that I heard was "She Lives in My Lap" from Dre. "Hey Y'all" was "Hey Y'all." I mean, it didn't really get us more excited about the album per se. The Way You Move kind of did. It was just interesting how they were, doing both sides of the album. And I remember thinking when I first heard The Love Below specifically, like, this is brilliant. First things first, we always wanted, and this is something that continues to go on to this day. I saw that Dre actually did a performance out in Dallas and brought Erica Badu on stage, and everybody's like, "Yo, we want Dre to rap." But he's doing his flute series or whatnot. I remember hearing The Love Below, and my first thing was, "Damn, 3 verses." Well, actually, what we got: Spread, Happy Valentine's Day, and obviously the last song on the album that everybody continuously talks about. Yeah, I'm like, 3 verses. Okay, that's fine. I was okay with it because really Stankonia kind of prepped us for Dre not rapping as much. I think my first um feedback from Stankonia was the fact that man, Dre's not rapping as much on here. He's doing a lot of singing. He's stepping off on a few songs, but with The Love Below, as brilliant as it was musically and songwriting wise, it was it was okay that he only had 3 verses because we were like, okay, this is just a dope album. Roses was dope. Obviously, stuff like Happy Valentine's Day, Spread. Then you had Prototype. Then you had records like Hey Y'all, of course. Then you had Pink and Blue, and you had the record with Nora Jones, and even Dracula's Wedding. It was just extremely creative for the time. And this is before, a lot of artists were kind of doing their own sidestep singing thing that were rapping. I mean, obviously people like CeeLo, but at the time, CeeLo hadn't dropped his, yeah, Perfect Imperfections was out, but CeeLo is, again, he's a little different. CeeLo and Lauren, they're known as singers. And when I think about it, what Kanye did with 808s and Heartbreaks kind of opened up a lane for rappers who really weren't comfortable with their singing voice, and they were able to utilize auto-tune to kind of mask that, right? Speakerbox Love Below is not one of those moments because Andre wasn't using auto-tune. He was actually utilizing his voice, and you could tell he really wasn't comfortable with that voice yet because he didn't even tour on the album. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Hold on, let's see if we can get some more people over here. Yeah, thumbs up in the chat, guys. But yes, so this album, which is to date one of the highest selling albums in hip hop history, it's a diamond album, and again, it's a double album, so they counted twice. But it was extremely successful, and I think it's the last real Outkast moment that we received as a brand. Now, granted, it's very separate in that respect, but at the same time, when we talk about Outkast as a brand and Outkast as a Grammy Award-winning collective, this was that last moment that we received, and it's been 21 years already. Big Boy really came through as a solo MC on this album. I think that in my personal, yeah, Vibrate's crazy. What's your favorite song on this album? If I had to pick a favorite song on either side, I think Unhappy for me when it comes to Speaker Box. And The Love Below, I'm trying to see if it changes, but now She Lives in My Lap is still, in my personal opinion, Andre's best songs. Best written song. It's the best song on the double disc, period, in my personal opinion. I wish we could have been doing this show when an album like that dropped. Where we could have actually broken down the critiques of each side. And what I would say now is probably very similar to what I said then. I really wish Big Boy on Speaker Box would have taken this opportunity to really shine as a solo MC. I think a lot of people sleep on Big Boy's incredible ability on the mic because of how Speaker Box is put together. I don't know, and I've never heard anybody speak of this, or I don't have any real insight on what the sessions were like on Speaker Box in relation to The Love Below. But just based on how they spoke about it in the time and while it was going on, I don't know if Big Boy took the time on Speaker Box that Dre took on The Love Below and really crafted it out as a solo mission, right? And it was clear that The Love Below was a solo mission from Dre's standpoint. The only real feature on there from a rap standpoint was Big Boy on Roses, and Big Boy murdered Roses. He did his thing on there. He really took that appearance 100% serious. The other appearances on there, Nora Jones and Khalees. But when it comes to Speaker Box, it's flooded with features. And I think that at the time, Outkast and Big Boy specifically were really pushing Killer Mike and really trying to get him to the masses and get him, to the forefront and utilize their platform as a vehicle to do so. And so I think that Big Boy, used his album as a vehicle for Killer Mike. So Killer Mike was featured on there. Obviously, Big Boy and Sleepy Brown, which I have no problem with that feature because Big Boy and Sleepy Brown have always made incredible music together. Then he had, Concrete and, his brothers and all of those guys who was on Boom on the Tune. Then you had Ludacris on there. Then you had, the features on there were it was a lot. And I think that really the way that the album was put together, I don't think Big Boy really needed that. I think at the time, his best feature, I would say, well, Jay-Z's on there too, Flip Flop Rocks, and I think Flip Flop Rocks is awesome. Big Boy did his thing on there. They put Killer Mike on there as well. I don't know if that and Killer Mike did his thing on that song, but I don't know if they really needed Killer Mike on that song. I really wish it could have been just Big Boy and Jay. And the way that Jay is speaking on Flip Flop Rocks, it's almost like he expected Andre to be on there. It wasn't like he shouted out Andre. He shouted out the Outkast brand and this and that. So I don't know if he thought that Dre was going to be on there as opposed to it being a song with just him and Big Boy. I don't really think the Ludacris feature was necessary at the time, in my personal opinion, unless they were just really going to do a Big Boy and Ludacris song as opposed to a posse cut. I think the production, I like the lane that Big Boy was going with Bow Tie and the way you move, and like it's just some cool jazzed out hip hop grown up stuff, which I do think that Speaker Box is kind of ahead of its time on. Big Boy was making some grown up hip hop stuff 21 years ago, because the way you move is not, your traditional hip hop that you were hearing in 2003. This was some grown up, put a suit and tie on type of stuff back in 2003. So I don't think Big Boy gets enough credit for that. I just don't know how pronounced that the lane was, or the vision, or just the overall theme for Speaker Box was. And I think they could have really spent some time to really map that out a little bit more defined. I think Big Boy wanted to do a lot of things, and he was able to do a lot of things on there, but it wasn't as pronounced as of a vision as The Love Below. And I think when you sit those two discs at that time, it was two discs. It wasn't a streaming era. You bought these two things together. So you're listening to Speaker Box and you listen to Love Below. One just seems a lot more pronounced than the other. The Love Below skits, its theme, its songwriting, its production, its execution was just so much more on par with the Outkast brand and and their collection of work from the first album all the way up to Stankonia. It was a lot more on brand with that than Speaker Box was. And again, doing a solo mission is a whole different animal. And I just don't know if on Speaker Box, Big Boy, I'm sure if he went back and listened to it now and made it again and put that album out again, there's probably some things that he would change around. And I think that really my biggest critique of Speaker Box was I wish Big Boy would have really just shined as a solo MC as opposed to, the features and having maybe two verses on records as opposed to having, three verses per record. Because again, the records where it's just him, I think he shined the most. I think Knowing is one of the strongest moments on there. I think Reset is one of the strongest moments on there. And I'm cool with the CeeLo and Cujo feature on there. Because again, that's on brand with what we know as that Outkast collective. I think Reset's one of the stronger moments on there. And, you just don't get do-overs in these situations. And as big of an album as Speaker Box Love Below is, I think what it did for a lot of fans or a lot of the pedestrian Outkast fans, it created that divide and that separation that we live with today where people put Andre over here and put Big Boy over here, and they rank Andre as a top whatever, and Big Boy somehow gets left off these lists. And I think that Speaker Box Love Below is the moment where that separation from the mainstream and just from the pedestrian Outkast fans happens. I think that's where that takes place. And I really, really wish, as a Big Boy fan, as an Outkast fan, and as an ATLian to the heart, I really wish that Big Boy would have taken that time on Speaker Box and made that album as perfectly crafted as Dre did with The Love Below. And that's not to say that the Speaker Box album is not a dope album. It's a dope album, but The Love Below is an all-time great album, in my opinion. And Outkast is Southern Playlistic, ATLians, Aquemini, and even Stankonia to a certain degree are all-time great albums. And I think the Big Boy had the ability to do the same thing with Speaker Box, but it just wasn't as pronounced as what we're used to from that brand and from that collective. And I wish he would have did, like I said, more spitting. The spitting that he did on there was dope. You know what I'm saying? But I just wish that that part of the album wouldn't have been overshadowed by how great of an album that The Love Below is. Because even if we're talking about singles, I don't feel like Hey Y'all overshadowed The Way You Move. I think both of those songs are hits in their own respected lane. Now, granted, Hey Y'all is one of the bigger songs of an era. But I do think that, The Way You Move is right there with it. When we talk about big songs of 2003 in hip hop. But I just think that the album, there's a big separation there. But cheers to that, man. I think we don't talk about the groundbreaking nature of Speaker Box Love Below enough. I hate that our guys weren't able to follow up this album with another Outkast collective album. It's such a bittersweet thing. It feels like it's open-ended. With Tribe, we were able to get a final album. With all our all-time groups, we were able to get final moments or continuing moments. Wu-Tang gives us continuing moments all the time. But when it comes to Outkast, man, we're kind of just left with this. And, and Big Boy's out here touring. He just performed in Vegas for the Raiders halftime. And Andre's in Dallas doing flute concerts, man. But one day, maybe one day, we'll get we will get that Outkast album. But until then, Speak About the Love Below is the final memory that we have, and it's celebrating 21 years, man. Going on 25. How insane is that? But yes, from one Dungeon family member to the other, man, Future dropped his album. I think I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more when I get Siobhan on the line. I do want to say this though, because there was something that kind of came across my desk, and I know this is quote unquote not really hip hop news per se, but I did see this last time around when we had an election season, right? And they did this to let me see the link. They did this to Ice Cube, and Ice Cube is very much hip hop, right? I saw during an election cycle in 2020 when Ice Cube put out his contract for Black America, and the Republican Party bid on it, where the Democratic Party didn't bite on it, and then the mainstream kind of ran with the story that Cube was doing business with the right wing and not a part of the left wing, yada yada. And then you had many people in the mainstream. I want to say not Angela Rye, but probably her too. But Amanda Seals and people like that, coming at Cube, calling them names and calling them this and that. And essentially, long story short, you had people out here calling for Cube to be canceled in the name of Joe Biden. And I was baffled. I was like, what? I didn't understand. I think we were doing the podcast at that time, and I was like, it just baffles my mind that people would even jump out the window and even go there. And I'm not just saying this for Cube or whoever, but just people who've given so much to Black culture and to inspire and put so many people on. You're willing to cancel them over a politician. What up, poets and rhymers? And so now I'm seeing D.L. Hughley specifically, and many others, going out there and going at Janet Jackson in the name of Kamala Harris. And it's like, I just don't understand, man. Like, this is Janet Jackson now. And whatever Janet Jackson had to say, it was, it's her opinion, it's what she went out there and saw and researched, or whatever she said she was told, fine. Whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And for you to come at Janet Jackson's neck at the time where they're out here grieving her brother's passing, number one, rest in peace to Tito Jackson. But calling for Janet Jackson to be canceled and coming at her a plastic surgery, whatever D.L. Hughley was talking, in the name of a politician. And again, I'm not sitting here, taking any sides on that end. Whatever people want to do and how you want to, put forth your vote and all that, that's fine. But I just think that it's very interesting that many of our mainstream personalities, especially the radio guys, and that's why this is really relevant to this topic too, because I'm gonna get into this BET Hip Hop Awards and its nominees and stuff. But the radio guys are so quick to jump on our entertainers and the people who been our entertainers and our icons for 30 plus years over a politician. And it's such a short way of thinking, and it's that part's got to stop. We denigrate our entertainers and athletes if they don't pick a side or if they don't speak up on politics, and whenever they do, if it's not what you want to hear or it's not favorable to who you want it to be favorable to, you're willing to just throw them away. There's no way in the world we're going to be throwing away Janet Jackson. You're not going to be sitting here talking down on Janet Jackson. You're not going to be talking down on the Jackson family. They've done too much and mean too much culturally, not just for Black culture, but just for mainstream mainstream American entertainment culture. She's done too much and doesn't deserve this. And I think, I think people out there who are saying anything negative about Janet based on this thing, they need to go out there and make a public apology to Janet Jackson. Because really, when you're coming out here and coming sideways at Janet, and hopefully Plies hadn't said anything denigrating to Janet in this respect either. But when you're out here being disrespectful and you make things personal over a politician and politics, you look extremely compromised because it shouldn't even be all that. Mad Max in the super chat says, I like the way you move the song. Only song I jack heavy. He says, I like the way you move. The only song I jack heavy. Yeah, the way you move is a dope record. I remember when I first heard that record, it was like a late night show. Back then, you know, they would try out the new records super late night just to see what people were feeling. And I was like, yo, man, this is dope. I was doing this series, and I'm gonna finish this series. I was doing it on Twitter actually, where I was going through some of Big Boy's most underrated featured appearances. I heard during this time period when Speaker Box Love Below was coming out, I heard a song called Ham Sandwiches and Coupe de Villes. And y'all can look that record up. It's got E40 on it. I thought it was Big Boy's record featuring E40 and Big Gip. But again, the song never came out. And so I don't know whose song it was. But anyway, I thought it was going to be on Speaker Box. Big Boy went insane on that record. And when I talk about wanting to hear Big Boy shine as an individual MC, the level that he was rhyming at that point in his career was high level with the features. His feature game is so understated and underrated. And I really was looking forward to Big Boy being able to showcase all of that skill set on one solo rap album. Because at this point, Andre made it clear that he wasn't going to be rapping like that. It's like, okay, well, the Outkast brand and the Outkast, I don't want to say catalog, but yeah, the Outkast hip hop wave or catalog, if you will, was now falling on the shoulders of Big Boy. And I was hoping that it was rap time, you know what I'm saying, at least for Big Boy. And that's a lot of pressure to put on an individual MC because Big Boy, we don't give him credit enough for this. He's had to adjust ever since Southern Playlistic, right? Like, we don't even really know what Big Boy's solo mind state would have or could have been because he spent the whole time during the Outkast tenure kind of just adjusting to the drastic changes of his partner. And so not only when the Speaker Box Love Below is coming out, not only did he have to continue that evolving change, but now he had to give people that sense of normalcy from what they expect from an Outkast record, if that makes any sense. So even when it's time for him to be a solo MC, now he has to kind of give people what they would think the next Outkast record would sound like, and he had to do it by himself. Other than going out there being able to just say, you know what, I'm about to put together a Big Boy solo record. He still had to make an album that, you know, resembled what we knew of as an Outkast rap album. Mad Max in the super chat says, we're not dissing Janet for Kamala. We are not. Now that me and Mad Max are on the same page, we're on the same page. At the end of the day, we're not going to sit here and disrespect Janet Jackson over, and it's not even just about Kamala, over any politician, because there isn't a politician for Black America, if we're going to say that specifically, or just in general, that you can sit there and say has that level of a resume, where you're going to just sit there and diss Janet Jackson for. I mean, if Janet Jackson went out here and was talking crazy about Harriet Tubman or something, I get that. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, last time I checked, none of these politicians have gone in the Deep South during the slavery era and freed 1,000 slaves over a 10-year period of time. So dissing Janet Jackson over a politician in general, it just doesn't, it's not a good look. And I think that, you know, DL Hughley specifically jumping off the bridge, jumping off the bridge or jumping off the building, whatever you want to call it, In this scenario, he owes the Jackson family and Janet Jackson an apology. And anybody else on a big level who did the same thing, you owe Janet Jackson an apology. And again, you wonder why our big time icons don't sit down and do interviews with you guys. You wonder why they don't talk politics, they don't talk serious topics. I think me and Leroy had this back and forth, talking about hip hop needs to step up politically and this and that, whatever. This is exactly why the big time artists don't say anything, because if you don't say what people want you to say, or some of these left-wing bullies and right-wing bullies in the media want you to say, then they go into denigration mode. Then they go into dissing mode, as opposed to just sitting here having a real conversation about real topics or whatever that you disagree upon. They just jump into the defense and start denigrating somebody who's given nothing but their blood, sweat, and tears to the culture. And that's not fair to Janet. That's not fair to anybody who wants to go out there and have a real conversation. It's very sick, and it's very sad to see, some of the people who we have viewed in the legendary light just sell out, and not even just sell out the people, but sell out our legends, man. Let our legends be. And if you don't like what they have to say in this situation and in this Janet situation, man, just chill out. Don't say anything. Just gracefully disagree. Don't say anything. Coming to Janet Jackson's neck over this is not going to work out well for you. And I don't know who sent these people, or if they're doing this on their own, or if they're told to go out here and respond or whatever. But DL and everybody else out there, we're definitely not going to pick you over Janet Jackson. We're definitely not going to pick some politician over Janet Jackson. It's just not going to happen. And if you feel the other way, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you over these past 4 or 5 years, what a certain politician has done to gain your allegiance over somebody who has given you their blood, sweat, and tears to this craft for over 35 years. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But again, we need to treat the Jackson family with the respect that they deserve. Janet with the respect she deserves. We saw what she went through with the Super Bowl, and these people just left her out to dry. And I didn't see many people in the mainstream Black media or radio people really have her back like that when she was getting drugged through the mud for nothing pretty much in the Super Bowl. I didn't see that. Michael Williams with the Super Chat says, rank these from best to worst. Illmatic, It Was Written, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, Ready to Die, Life After Death, Reasonable Doubt, The Blueprint. Okay, I think Illmatic's the best album of all of those. Surprisingly enough, I think All Eyes on Me might be number 2 there. Okay. Illmatic, then I'm gonna go All Eyes on Me. Jeez, man, now it gets very difficult. I think as a collective, Life After Death is a better album than Reasonable Doubt. So I'm just gonna go Life After Death, Reasonable Doubt. Ready to Die, Blueprint, and Me Against the World. Oh, you got It Was Written in there. Blueprint, yeah, Me Against the World, and then It Was Written. That's where I'm gonna go. Final answer. But yeah, again, man, I think that when we live in a time where people feel that there's just one statement that many people might disagree on could put you in jeopardy of possibly losing your fan base, or people trying to push folks to stop supporting you. It's wild. But shout out to the Jackson family. We love the Jackson family. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to you during this tough time. You just lost your brother, Tito Jackson, one of the anchors of that Jackson family. And Janet shouldn't be going through this, period. She definitely shouldn't be going through this during a time where you just lost your brother. So I can speak on behalf of most people I know, and possibly most people in this room, that, yeah, we're not going to sit here and cancel you over a politician. That's just not going to happen. Speaking of canceling, though, and before I get Siobhan on the line to talk about some of these BET hip hop nominations, they got Cardi B nominated as Lyricist of the Year. But, we'll get to that in a second. But speaking of cancellations, a lot of Diddy stuff going on. And I think you guys have kind of heard Diddy being in the news and all the things that Diddy has going on. I think it's probably the biggest, not just the biggest story in hip hop, but probably the biggest story in entertainment of 2024. This Diddy thing has been dragged out. Yes, Mad Max Super Chat says R.I.P. Tito. Yes, R.I.P. Tito Jackson, man. We love you, man. The musician in the Jackson 5, the guitar player, and a lot of people use his name and trying to be funny or whatever, and use the dynamic of Michael and Tito, blah blah blah. And I think it came from Eddie Murphy. He was like, "Tito, give me a tissue," but Tito played the guitar, man, and Tito went out there on stage and was that guitar player for the Jackson Collective. Shout out to Tito. But yes, I just saw a stat saying that Diddy's music has increased in streaming on an average of 18.3% in this week. So I don't know if over this year how much his music has increased in streaming. And we always talk about when these legal issues come about with these major entertainers and these indictments, if you will, come down, especially when it comes down to the morality side of it. Should people stop listening to an individual? The only person I can kind of compare this to is R. Kelly. And I'm not going to ask you guys if you still listen to R. Kelly. That's, your preference, whatever. But are you still listening to Diddy's music? And are you surprised that there's been an increase in his streams? And are you willing to cancel or stop listening to Diddy's music for this and for the situation that's going on? I can honestly say that I organically listen to certain songs that Diddy has made, like as a solo artist. I randomly, and this wasn't even because they've been in the news, because Don was in the news, Don Richard was in the news. I randomly was listening to the Diddy Dirty Money album the other day. Not because, subliminally, maybe because his name is out there, but because I actually love the album. And I do think that when you put together quality material and quality works, people are going to gravitate to it. Like, are you willing to stop listening to All About the Benjamins? I don't think people are going to stop listening to that record. I was randomly listening to the radio not too long ago, and you still hear Can't Nobody Hold Me Down on these old school stations. So I don't think there's going to be a time, regardless of the charges and regardless of what the outcome of these charges are, that people are going to stop listening to Diddy. Matt Max in the super chat says, yes, Mike, I'm still bumping Diddy, Kales, etc. I don't care. Well, I think the thing that makes it difficult for people when it comes to R. Kelly is the content of the music, right? I Believe I Can Fly is a beautiful record. I don't care what anybody has to say about that. I mean, if we're just talking music and we're just talking, lyrics and musicality and the way the song's put together, it's nothing that you can really say to denigrate or diminish a record like that. I Believe I Can Fly is a 10 out of 10. And when we think about it, it's probably one of the best records end to end from the 90s, period. But I think the issue when it comes to R. Kelly is the charges, what we know, and the underage. That's the other thing. But the content of his music, and it makes people think, like, okay, well, what was going on while this was being recorded, and who was this really about, and what was he making this for, and what really inspired him to make such a sexual record when we know what he was getting into, right? I don't think that we correlate any of those things with Diddy's music and what's being put forth, what these charges are. So I think that makes it slightly different, right? The content of the music, when you think about what y'all want to do, want to be ballers, shot callers, brawlers. Like it has nothing to do with really what's going on there. Mad Max with the super chat says, I care about the music alone, not these characters. That's a good point. That's a good point. Some people are able to separate the individual from the music, and some people aren't. And again, when we call for people to be canceled or their music to be canceled, yada yada, people aren't thinking about the actual music itself. They're thinking about the person. And I've heard people over and over say, okay, well, that music doesn't sound the same to me because of who that person is. I think the music industry has a model. And this is an old school model mostly, but I think we still kind of go by this old school model because it is a popularity contest. We're going to get to that when we talk about Kendrick Lamar's 11 nominations. Kendrick Lamar actually got nominated for video director of the year at the BET Hip Hop Awards, which is wild. But anyway, it's a popularity contest, and the way that they sell records in mass and get fans in mass is to get people to buy into that individual. And what comes with buying into that individual is when that individual does something that is illegal or that is morally corrupt or whatever, then the music goes down with it, right? Because if you're selling the person to sell the music, now when the person is no longer sellable, then the music can go too. And I'm with Mad Max. As a music lover, I'm gonna go with the music first. We were just talking about the Jacksons, and Michael was found innocent of, I want to say all charges, the exception of one. But let's just say hypothetically, he was found guilty of all those things. I can honestly sit here and say to you guys, I know it's gonna sound whatever, but again, I'm a music person first. I wouldn't have stopped listening to Michael Jackson's music because the music is just that strong. And I mean, I I would separate the individual from the music. And I know that's a very, very tough thing to even say based on what the nature of those charges were. But again, I think that the content of what music I'm talking about, like a Human Nature, like a Billie Jean and things like that, where Billie Jean could go, whatever. But it's it wasn't, it doesn't make you think like, okay, well, was this made for blah blah blah, you know? So that kind of changes that for me. And maybe I'm justifying it. Maybe because I love the music so much, I'm justifying it. And y'all can let me know if I'm wrong. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says multiple things can be true. Diddy is a bad guy. Also, I'm never gonna stop playing Benjamins. Also, The Love Below is the best album of 2023. I guess he meant 2003, but it would have been the best album of 2023 as well. All right, let's talk about this then before I get Siobhan on. And we're talking about, you know, music and morality and all of those things. Thumbs up in the chat, guys. Thumbs up in the chat, guys. Let's get some more people in here to discuss this. Let's talk about Africa Bambaataa. Africa Bambaataa hasn't been formally charged of anything, but based on accounts and based on many people's accounts, there's a notion of what Africa Bambaataa was a part of and what he allegedly did. Do you stop listening to Planet Rock? Does that change Planet Rock's impact, and not only just Planet Rock's impact, but the impact that Africa Bambaataa had for hip hop? Can you erase somebody based on who they were as an individual, character-wise, even if they haven't been charged? Can you erase them from the history of something that was as big as hip hop? And my answer is, I mean, the truth is, I mean, we're living in America, right? Truth is no. Because if we did that for American history would look very different. Yeah. I do have a daughter. Yes. Yes. And again, my personal feelings with that's a whole different conversation. But it's a very slippery slope. I don't listen to certain R. Kelly records because, again, the nature of the content and how that, how disturbing, those charges and, those stories have been and what may have been going on when those songs were being made. So I'm not like, most people say, I'm just going to sit here and listen to them regardless. I don't care what you say. But history is my point. And if somebody who did terrible, terrible things, you know, made an impact, I don't think you celebrate that person to that degree based on who they, were and the things that they committed. But you can't erase what they did in history. I mean, I don't know what the charges for or the allegations in whole and totality are for Russell, because I've heard so many and people have been public about so many. But erasing Russell Simmons from hip hop history, it's impossible to do. It's inaccurate. I mean, Russell is very, very important in the growth of this thing we call hip hop. Now, whether you want to celebrate him for that or not, I think that's a conversation, and that's something that, people can kind of weigh out based on, what they know and don't know. But to say you can erase somebody, it becomes dangerous, right? Because especially when we're talking allegations, if you're able to erase somebody's work and effort based on allegations, then that leaves the door wide open for anybody to be erased just based on anything. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, I was talking about Diddy's Love album. Oh, okay. My bad. He said Diddy's Love album was the album of 2023. It's interesting how quickly things can change, man, because the Love album was the talk of the town this time last year. And now that whole thing is it's a whole different conversation now. Michael Williams with the super chat says, Mike, you'd have The Love Below over Get Rich or Die Trying in the Black album for the best album of 2003? Nah, I wouldn't. But you know what? That's an interesting conversation, man. I think that The Love Below as an album, I don't know if I'd have it over Get Rich or Die Trying, because Get Rich or Die Trying is a monster. But I do think it's a conversation when it comes to the Black album. I think The Love Below, with its originality, its songwriting, its hits on there, its depth, its musicality, I think that I could put The Love Below over the Black album. I don't know which one has aged better. I would still say maybe The Love Below. I think the dichotomy with The Love Below is the fact that Dre didn't tour on it. Dre never followed it up, excuse me. We didn't get a lot of performances from it. So it's like with The Love Below, it got cut off at the knees. It's basically just an album, right? Whereas all these other albums from that era, they had tours, they had performances. Jay-Z continued on his career where he kept those songs fresh and gave those songs life because he kept performing those songs. Same thing with 50. And you don't get any of those things from The Love Below. You just get a record. You know what I'm saying? You just get an album. There's no tour. There's no follow-up. The artist himself doesn't even go out there and perform these records anymore. So I do think that plays a factor in how that album is remembered. But if Dre would have did a tour that followed up The Love Below, and if he would have continued on his solo career in that path, I mean, I could say that. I mean, really, even all of the stuff that we give Andre accolades for now, a lot of that is based on that album. When The Love Below came out, Outkast and Dre specifically, I think he was on top of the world. I mean, look at the Grammys. I mean, they cleaned up at the Grammys over those other two albums that you're talking about. So speaking of awards, and I don't want to get too off track, but when we talk about canceling people and canceling music, I think it's a real conversation to have. We'll get Siobhan in the room, man. Add Siobhan to the stage. What's going on, brother? How we doing?
What's good, man?
Hey, what's good? Am I off base with some of the stuff that I'm talking about as it pertains to, people still listening to somebody, even after going through the the R. Kelly and Diddy type of situations?
Being totally objective, I believe that like if you're a person that could separate the art from the artist, then cool, participate in viewing or listening to whatever art said artist has. Um, a lot of us are not really invested into the lives, but some of us are invested into the lives of these artists in a way because that's kind of what makes us like them.
Yeah,
But for the ones that have done things, it kind of taints it a little bit. And I'm not mad at somebody if they don't listen to that artist or support anything they want to do anymore. If it triggers them, if it's something they're totally against.
right.
Um, for me, I guess it depends on what happens. If we're speaking on the fact of R. Kelly, Diddy, those type of things, it's like a slippery slope because if you cancel all their music because of any wrongdoing they did, I mean, we have to look at a lot of movie stars, a lot of execs, a lot of artists in the music industry that all have things that have been said or have happened that's kind of been swept under the rug because the art kind of succeeded that. Um, we just have to figure out what is it you want to do. Do you want to separate the art from the music, or do you want to just have your personal belief? I'm done listening to them. I know a lot of DJs personally have taken Diddy out of their playlist. They've taken R. Kelly out their playlist. Me personally, I was never a big person on listening to Diddy as an artist himself. I do love the Love album. I did listen to that. I thought that was an album that got overshadowed by these allegations and the Cassie thing. So it's like soon as that album hit and it was kind of being able to just touch the fans, I feel like that's when the allegations came out. So I don't think he got a lot of credit. But when we're talking about these things that are going on, we have to think and we have to ask ourselves, what is more important to you, the music or is it the person themselves? Because for me, it's the music. That's what I like you for. That's what I know you for.
Let me stop you real quick while I'm thinking about this. Like, I don't listen to Aaliyah's "Age Ain't Nothing But a Number" song because of the individual who wrote it and who's singing it and the content of the song itself. We're talking about things like that. You can't really separate the music from the individual because now the individual and their character is spilling into the music. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I was trying to say when we're talking about yeah. So like yeah, because like if you have 15-year-old girls sitting here singing "Age Ain't Nothing But a Number," throwing down ain't nothing but a thing, and it's written by R. Kelly, and we know what he's on, I can't listen to that record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's hard for R. Kelly. You go back and listen to some stuff, and there's like some glaring lines and the stuff. We'd be like, oh man, like. But for the most part, the classics that we know, I mean, they just remain classics. You can't tell me to not listen to I Believe I Can Fly, man. I remember
again, I Believe I Can Fly kind of has nothing to do with any of this. You know what I
mean? Graduating elementary and stuff. That's what we walked to, man. Like they had us singing that in elementary school as kids and stuff. So I can't really like take that away. There's a lot of music within R. Kelly's category. I mean, like his catalog that is just like it's never going anywhere from me. Like the I Believe I Could Fly, man, I DJ this a lot at like old school parties. They love
Ignition remix. So we talking about Step in the Name of Love.
Yeah, Step in the Name of Love, or Happy People, you know what I'm saying? Those are
Step in the Name of Love is a great record. The remix, man. It's like that's again, when we talk about the content, there's not like let's just say there's nothing that correlates from the content of that song to that individual's character, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? And and it is like I get this too, and this is a big narrative, and this is real. You don't want to support somebody who's committed such heinous acts in any kind of way. And when you're playing the music, you're doing that.
Yeah, just because I'm listening to the music doesn't say that I'm supporting whatever heinous or acts that these people have done that has been like just disgusting. That's not what I'm saying, bro. It's like in theory, technically we are supporting the person by buying, like streaming the music or buying it or whatever, but then it's like I'm not supporting the things that they're doing, bro. It's the music. I love the music. I am a music head. If we think about a lot of our favorite artists that have done things that are against what we think that are morally wrong, we wouldn't listen to a lot of our artists. We wouldn't watch a lot of these movies. And like I said, when with Diddy, he had adult substance in the Love album. It was a good R&B stacked album, but like I said, the allegations overshadowed that, and it didn't, kind of like shut it out a little bit. When we're talking about him now and what's going on, you're trying to tell me that I'm gonna stop listening to Diddy because what's going on right now? First of all,
I mean, that's the thing when it comes to Diddy. Where does it stop and where does it end? He's been a part of so many records. So it's like, do you stop listening to stuff that he produced? Do you stop listening to people that he put on?
Do we stop listening to big albums?
Stuff that he put his money into that, he's gonna, because again, when we talk about supporting an individual, you stop listening to Ready to Die because clearly, Diddy gets paid off of Ready to Die, I will believe, right? Biggie gets paid off of Life After Death. So do you stop listening to that because you're supporting this individual now? And again, I know for some people, it feels like we're justifying, but we're actually, just trying to have an open dialogue about the reality of that concept. Because when you're supporting, when you're listening to Ready to Die, you're quote unquote supporting Diddy financially, correct?
Yeah, that's why I said the technical part of it. Yeah, financially buying his music, streaming. Yes. Here's the thing about this too, and why I say it's always like funny when having this conversation is because like people be like, "Oh, we can't support R. Kelly because of this. We can't support Diddy because of that," and it's like the music, the art is what it's gonna be. But like, if we start tacking on the list of individuals that are people's favorites and start finding out things that have been swept under the rug and never talked about, that we wouldn't have anything to speak about. And you know what's contradictory to that as well is like an artist will go and do something that get them put away forever, such as involved in a murder or something. When they get out, it's a celebration. It's free everybody. Like, so like, where does the morality start and when does it end for people? Because I remember not too long ago, we had Bobby Shmurda that went to trial. When you look at the stuff that they were accused of and were found guilty of, and people are saying, "Oh, free so and so," where's your morality when it's for that? That a person
violence doesn't take a precedence with character when it comes to, I don't even want to just say hip hop, but just urban, music. We never sit there and say because this person violated this person from a physical violent level that I'm not going to support this artist anymore. I mean, listen to the content of the music and the stuff that people say that we actually support. Mad Max in the super chat says the world's greatest never leaving. The world's greatest never leaving. And Mad Max also says R. Kelly wrote like 300 hits for others. Be for real, people.
Yeah, so if we're not even listening to R. Kelly, we're still listening to R. Kelly because he had a lot of production in it, just like Diddy. He had a lot of executive producing credits. But like I said, who checked for Diddy as a real like solo artist? I mean, we heard Diddy, but it was like I wasn't going out my way to be like, man, I'm ready to listen to this Diddy album, hear what he coming with. Nah, it wasn't like that. We like his legacy is his legacy. What he did for people as far as being a part of projects is solidified, but it's not like I'm championing anything that he did wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think Diddy's legacy musically is something that, like you said, we're all out here supporting whether we like it or not. I think his legacy is that he is the guy, not the first guy, but the one who successfully did it where he married hip hop and R&B in both facets, right? He got somebody like a Biggie to sound great over R&B style records and got him radio play. And on the flip side, he got somebody like Mary J. Blige and put her over hip hop records and got her radio play based off of that. He's the guy, not the first, but he's the guy in a pivotal era of hip hop getting on the radio that successfully married hip hop and R&B. And I said this last year when he was talking about, R&B dying and all that. I think when he did that, he kind of hurt R&B and helped hip hop. I think R&B start kind of falling off of its core elements when it started to marry with hip hop, whereas hip hop, gained more notoriety when it married with R&B. But that's his impact. And like you said, you can't escape that. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when you look at Mariah Carey's Fantasy remix with Old Dirty Bastard, that's him. He did that. He put that together. You're supporting him or listening to him and not even knowing that you're listening to him. Really,
Yeah,
you can't. His
degrees of separation.
erasing his
Like,
records. It's almost impossible to erase his records. Now, we talk about his individual solo stuff. You're right. That's a minimal part of this person as a musician. I mean, you technically got All About the Benjamins. That's on his album. Can't Nobody Hold Me Down is on his album. As much as I love these songs, I mean, Benjamin's is different, but
yeah, like
a lot of his songs could be erased and we'd be okay.
If you cancel Diddy, you cancel a great part of that 90s run in hip hop, man, and who we got from that tree. Just like if we cancel R. Kelly, you cancel people from that tree because his contributions to it. So I just tell people, man, hey, if you want to not listen to somebody because what they did outside of the music, cool. For me, I'm never invested into like an artist outside of it to outside of the music to the point where I'm just so enamored to them as a person. I don't know these people. Majority of people in the industry sometimes are weirdos. We don't know what these people do behind closed doors. A lot of stuff that goes on, we probably wouldn't even agree with. Just for me.
Well, what about the people that are influenced? Like, let's just say Trey Songz clearly influenced by R. Kelly. So you can't erase the impact on that level because that person influenced whole generation. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but I do think it becomes a personal choice. But from my standpoint, and this is just me, I think that yes, I can't listen to records like Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, knowing who it came from, what it was for, and what the purpose of all of that was. I think that part of it's sick. I can't sit there and vibe to that like that, knowing what I know. But I Believe I Can Fly. I mean, I listen to that song in a vacuum and not think about the individual who composed it in that sense.
Yeah, for me, it's just like if that's the cross you want to die on, bro. If you we're canceling so and so. I mean, just stay true to that when it comes to everything else, bro. Don't be a walking contradiction, because like I said, the great movies, like the classic movies we watch, a lot of those actors had some stuff going on. Like we hear Hollywood stories, bro.
Not to mention the executives, not to mention, the producers, the directors, the cinematographers, it's a big rabbit hole.
Yeah, if we want to go down that rabbit hole of canceling everything, we won't get a lot of this industry stuff that we know and love. So let's be honest. If you don't want to draw a line within that, you're not going to have a lot of entertainment. You're not. I'm just going to be honest with you, because if you go down the rabbit hole of everything that people did, it's just like, come on, man. Like I said, it's a bunch of walking contradictions when it comes to that. And that's just why
I like what you had to say about when we're talking about the violent crimes, right? Like it's not that same level of I guess morality when it comes to people who committed violent crimes. Well, violent crimes is like, okay, well, that ain't rolled out or whatever. Like you said, it's
he did that and came out.
Yeah.
Man, come on,
like,
bro.
Somebody actually got hurt.
Bro? When does it end and when does it start and when does it begin? Like I said, if it's your personal choice, bro, believe in what you want to believe in, stand on what you do.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a walking contradiction. Don't celebrate one thing and then get on another one when it cancel because of the other. It's just like, come on, bro. What are we talking about?
All right, Mad Max to the super chat. He says, there's exceptions to the rule. To nice to be erased. I'm sorry. There's exceptions to the rule. Too nice to be erased. Okay. All right. This is what I got here, man. Next, BT Hip Hop Awards is coming up. Fat Joe is hosting yet again. And some of these nominees, man, I kind of wanted to talk about it real quick, especially since we're talking about Blues, the album today. We're talking about MC Lyte's album and Future's mixtape. I want to start with lyricist of the year. Well, no, what? I want to start with the fact that Kendrick Lamar has 11 nominations, and I think Megan's leading all nominations with 12. But lyricist of the year nominees are, you ready for this? They have
Yes,
like a million nominees too, man. I remember award shows used to have like 4 nominees each. Anyway, lyricist of the year, Megan Thee Stallion. Lyricist of the year, Cardi B. These are the nominees for lyricist of the year now. 21 Savage, Common, Lil Wayne, Kendrick Lamar, Nicki Minaj, Drake. These are the nominees for lyricist of the year. Kendrick's gonna win this, but
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. He's gonna win. He's probably gonna win. He's nominated for 11. Shit, they might even give him video director of the year too. He might win all 11. I think he's gonna win at least 9 out of 11.
You know,
go ahead.
My opinion about those awards, man, like the hip hop awards. First of all, I feel like the BET Hip Hop Awards have missed the mark for the last few years. People are not showing up for awards. The performance. My biggest thing is the performance has been bad. You know, a lot of these artists that come on and they perform on BET Awards just doesn't have any showmanship, man. It's kind of like I was disappointed with the actual BET Awards itself, not the Hip Hop Awards, but the BET Awards itself this past year was like, it was bad, man. And it was like, we used to love the BET Awards. It's kind of like, it was like a family gathering a little bit, everybody coming together, chiming in on social media, but it's just not that no more, man. It's like, it just went down the drain. It's not even a shell or a fraction of what it used to be.
Well, I want to stop you there. And you bring up a great point. I think that award shows, the core of award shows is centered around the performances, right? And you're right. If you don't have really good performers or performances, how strong can your award show really be? Because it's one thing that these networks don't show music videos and all of that stuff, but you can really save that if you have strong performances. And I think that currently a lot of I say this respectfully, a lot of the festival performers just aren't strong television performers. Performing at a festival is way different than a television performance. You got to have something. You got to have something else when it comes to doing a television performance. And I think that, you know, BET at this juncture, if they're going to do award shows, which it seems like they're going to do, you need to vet who the strong performers are and give them the stage and not really focus on who's hot right now. Because if that person who's hot right now or whatever is not a strong performer, they don't need to take up your stage because it's going to make your show look bad. Well, now that brings us to Kendrick. We know Kendrick's a great performer. With 11 nominations, is he even going to show up to this show? When is the last time he showed up to a BET Hip Hop Awards?
Well, didn't he perform at a BET Hip Hop Awards when he did All Right, or was that the Grammys? I don't want to mistake that. Was that the Grammys or the BET Hip Hop?
It was probably the Grammys, or if anything, it might have been the BET Awards, not the BET Hip Hop.
Yeah, okay. Because I remember he did do the cipher with TDE.
That's the last time I remember him being there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the BET Awards lacks at this. I feel like it used to be a celebration that felt genuine. Now it feels like a lot of pandering of the misrepresentation of the culture to me. I always liked the fact that BET Awards was bringing together the new with the old. You know, you got the new hottest artists. You got the tributes to the GOATs. You got great performances. And I feel like all of that is missing. Even when you think about the hip hop ciphers, those have kind of plummeted a little bit. Those used to be the reason why we watched the Hip Hop Awards, was because of the ciphers. The ciphers is what carried that show. I never looked at the BET Hip Hop Awards being on the same level as production as the regular BET Awards a little bit, but it felt like there was still an element of hip hop there when you did the ciphers. That's what made it the Hip Hop Awards to me. The performances, I separate this from the Hip Hop Awards. If we talk about the regular BET Hip Hop Award, regular BET Awards, they missed the mark on the Usher tribute. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was waiting for that, and you know, I was cool with a couple people that was on it, but I was like, man, we could have did better for Usher tribute. So, you know,
Well, they had nothing but women performing Usher's tribute, and I say
which
that
I didn't
respectfully.
understand.
It was like,
I
come
didn't
on, you
understand.
telling me you couldn't get some of the
Yeah,
stronger male entertainers out here to pay tribute to Usher? And again, I think a lot of these award shows get lost in these they get lost in these agendas, unfortunately. And you know, I know everybody got advertisers, everybody got bills to pay, but you also have to put on a great show and put on you know what I'm saying, a great performance. I think this is the opportunity that the BET Hip Hop Awards misses, because I agree with you. I think we haven't, there's no real difference between the BET Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards right now, period.
right.
But there's an opportunity here with the BET Hip Hop Awards where you do have guys like Blue who are making quality records, right? You got all kinds of guys who don't, and women as well. Rhapsody's another one that doesn't really get the mainstream credit that they deserve, but they're making some dope hip hop shit. And you can mix what's going on with what they're doing hip hop wise with the 21 Savages and the Gunners and all of that stuff, and you could bring those two worlds together on that BET Hip Hop Awards stage. And you could really go out there and, like you said, put the best performers on stage, and make sure that when you put certain strong MCs in these ciphers, that you're giving them the opportunity for their works to be appreciated on this stage as well. Don't just use somebody in the cipher because they could spit. This person probably has a project out too that deserves to be, you know, represented on your BET Hip Hop Awards. Because if you sit here and you have Cardi B, who hadn't dropped an album since 2018, as a nominee for Lyricist of the Year, you are out of tune. Like,
Well,
first of all,
I
Cardi
can't
B's
fully
not a
agree with you on
strong
that, Mike.
lyricist. Huh?
The reason why I can't fully agree with you on that, Mike, is because although Cardi hasn't dropped in you know, this time frame, she still was featured on a lot of records.
Is she a
Um,
strong lyricist like that, where we could say that her appearances warrant her to be in the Lyricist of the Year category over somebody like a Rhapsody?
and this is why I don't like that category as much, because I don't think it's about lyricism at all. I just
It's
think it's
not.
about who had the hottest year. It doesn't seem to be lyricist
They
based.
shouldn't even have that category
But
if they're not going to just go on the lyricist, you know,
yeah, it's
criteria.
like I don't think, and that's the thing. People get up in arms about, oh, some person shouldn't belong in this category, but I'm like, when you really slice it, bro, it's not really about the lyrics. That's not the base. When you're really looking at this, I think the categories, like, we could talk about them, but I feel like the thing that I nominated for is never the reason why we viewed the hip hop awards. Kind of felt like when it came down to the categories or the nominations, it was just like blah. You know, I like seeing the achievement, you know, the artist achievement awards and things of that nature. But the categories, it's an award show. You gotta have them. You gotta have the nominations. But we all know it's like clout based. I feel like the lyricist of the year is more about the clout more so than the actual lyricism as an artist. Because if you really want to talk about lyricists, let's put real lyricists in there. These are all mainstream
Yeah.
artists that you have in there. You know,
Well, you know,
so
this is the thing, man. When you look at like the Oscars and things of that nature, and I only bring this up because these institutions have been around for almost 100 years, if not, you know what I mean? Like, they work.
mm,
When it comes to best cinematography, they don't care if you were a blockbuster film, or, you know what I'm saying, or your film grossed 100 something million, or it would just gross like, you know, 10 million. They're going on the quality of the works at that point, or the politics. There's always politics going on, but they also understand that, yeah, we're not going to give it to some movie that doesn't exhibit any of these traits. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think Cardi B would be up in arms if she didn't receive a nomination for Lyricist of the Year. She doesn't care about that. And like you said, that's not even her angle when it comes to making her music.
not
And
at all.
she's never claimed to be a lyricist. She even will let you know that she don't write her rhymes all the time, and that's cool. So why are you pandering to her and maybe her audience by even putting her in this category unnecessarily? Like, that's my problem. Like, are you doing this just so people can watch the show? Are you doing this so we can argue about this on podcasts for clout? And
It's a little bit of
again,
both.
yeah.
It's a
And
little bit of
so
both.
I think that, like we talked about last episode, I think that the music loses when people are out here trying to do things for clicks.
Yeah, man. And then I can't put all the blame on BET because some of the half has to go to the artist. You if you want to be an artist, learn your craft, bro. The showmanship, how to perform, like. And I feel like a lot of that talent is like being washed away and it's pushed a certain way. And I feel like there's a certain part of BET that kind of got away from the culture a little bit. I feel like it's not black entertainment television. That's not what black entertainment is to me. From what I see sometimes, I feel like in the past, BET kind of was on par with the culture, and throughout the time, it's gotten lost. But if you look at the trajectory of music, the same thing has happened. So there's sort of a reflection that's coming on both sides. So BET can't solely get all the responsibility. You have to put some of this on these artists and the level of artists that we have now, man. We can't make everybody famous and hot.
I agree to a certain extent but BET is the institution that has the platform, and their platform is older than all of these, artists and their careers and more established. There are talented artists out there that don't get the stage. You know what I noticed, and not even just BET, all of these award shows. It seems like, when they go to commercial and they'll have the artist that I guess wasn't big enough to be on stage, basically taking you to commercial. Those seem like the most talented artists. They'll have people who, are really dope performers, and they know that they're dope performers because they gave them a stage to some extent, but they're just not big enough to actually get a main stage. And so we're dealing with the lackluster performances from the people that are the most popular, the people that these institutions have put the most money behind. And I do think that part of it is on BET. They need to say, yo, if your artist isn't able to perform at this level, we can't have them on our stage. At some point, you got to be some level of a quality control gatekeeper to say, no, this is going to be a reflection on us. And it is. This is going to be a reflection on us in our show. Your artist needs to make sure that they do this, and this to step their game up before they get on this stage. And I think that everybody is so scared of losing a relationship with an artist or an institution or whatever, that they're not going to be honest about the fact that, yo, your artist can't perform. Your artist needs to step up this, level of performance. Because at the end of the day, how does that artist get better if they don't have any doors closed in front of them, when it comes to their performances? Or how does the music get better if we just settle for whatever these people are able to put forth and they're not up to that standard and that level? Where is the standard if we don't set a standard?
Yeah, and Mike, it used to be a time where like BET did have a foot on the culture, and it changed. And one thing I could say is the regular BET Awards, it was something that kind of it used to get it right. You had the new school, you had the old school, you had gospel, all on one show, and you always had somebody you paid tribute to or got an achievement award, and it just brought everybody together. Then you have the hip hop awards that's supposedly strictly for hip hop, and I feel like at some point it was kind of raw with the ciphers, but this is why I say you can't place it all on BET, because it's a reflection of what hip hop is now. And if we're being real honest, to go against what I was saying a little bit, this is where hip hop is now on these BET awards. So it's like I said, it's a responsibility for both to make sure they just get it right, man. If it's hip hop awards, let's keep it hip hop, but it's still a show you have to put on. Like, you still have to deliver a good show. And I say that before we get into the categories. I don't want to lose the point.
Okay, Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says the problem is there's no more mainstream rappers that are also lyricists. It doesn't exist. Name 3 great mainstream MCs under the age of 30. And you know what? I think that's why we talk about the big 3 so much, because I think they're the closest thing to what you're talking about, quote unquote, lyricists on a mainstream large level. And those guys are well over 30. Hustler of the year. I think this is such a vague category, but we'll go through it.
Who they have in there?
They got 50 Cent. They got ASAP Rocky. They got Cam and Mace. I like that pick. Cardi B again. Drake. All right, listen. What can we even say? Why would Drake even be in this category?
Yeah, what are we? That's what I'm saying. When we
again, it's like,
what are we basing stuff on?
Yeah,
like I can see 50, and I can see Cam and Mace. Those are the neck and neck for me.
And I can understand Cardi B to a degree. You could kind of talk about some of the deals that she continues to do, and the fact that she's able to stay relevant without really putting out any music. That's some hustler shit. I would give that. I can justify that to some degree.
Yeah.
But why is Drake even on this Hustler of the Year?
Why is A$AP Rocky on Hustler of the Year?
Good question. I don't know. I have no idea.
But like, why would you put him in that? Like, I can see how you could put 50 in that. 50 is he just broke ground with his production studio.
I think he should win.
Yeah, man. And then what Cam and Mace has done for their sports show is amazing. I love that show. So it's like you have two people. We have these categories. There's only those two that I could see why they're in there. The rest is like, what did they do to where
Fat Joe's the other person in there? I don't understand that either.
You say who?
Fat Joe.
I could understand Fat Joe slightly because what he did from podcasting and earning a new show on the Stars, I think that's impressive. So I can see how Joe's in that. But
Glorilla's nominated for that too, and Kendrick Lamar as well.
They're all in Hustler of the Year.
Yep. Let me go through the names again. All right, so we got 50 Cent, A$AP Rocky, Cam and Mace, Cardi B, Drake, Fat Joe, Glorilla, and Kendrick Lamar. I don't really know why Kendrick Lamar is in the Hustler of the Year category.
Yeah, is it the clout of what was circling around the Kendrick and Drake beef for why they're in there? And for Glorilla had a big year. She was on tour with Meg, but I still don't understand the hustler part of it, I guess. But like I said, I don't know what they're like. What is
exactly? They got to define what this category even means.
Yeah, like what is
we're in the podcast era now, and according to hip hop, it's according to hip hop. But I think BET is a big enough platform where they could have people pop up online and go through these categories and actually explain it. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you get? Who made this decision, and how did you guys get to this decision?
Yeah,
because people want transparency. We get online and talk to the people like straight up right now. Like, how did you get to, Drake being nominated for Hustler of the Year for 2024? How did you get to that?
Like I said, I feel like I feel like, Drake and Kendrick's being there solely off the beef, but that has nothing to do with like Hustler of the Year to me. It's just like, are you putting these people in here just like for views or for to get people talking? Like I said, the only people that truly I see has a shot at winning is Cam and Mace and 50. Those are guys that really have been doing things big for this past year. 50 has been doing it for the past 10 years. What he has going and everything. So if anybody, I feel like it should be between 50 and Cam and Mace. More so 50 for me. Because what he did with bringing that production studio to Shreveport was really big, and is groundbreaking for Black cinema and Black television as well.
Now Kendrick did get the Super Bowl halftime show, and you know what? One could argue that even with this whole, back and forth with Drake, Kendrick was able to kind of have a big year without having an album. And, say he hustled the game in that way. I don't know. But again, it has to kind of be defined on what that hustler of the year entails. And I think a lot of us it's kind of left up to interpretation. A lot of us interpret it as the fact that, okay, you were able to hustle out here outside of the music. That's kind of where
that's how I view it, right?
Yeah, that's how I view it. Like, you're talking about making moves outside of the music and using, what you did musically as leverage to, leverage other deals. That's kind of where I take it. And I don't see that for Drake or Kendrick specifically in this category.
Yeah. That's why I just want to understand the criteria. What are they, getting based off this? Because if you're really talking about hustle of the year, we're leaving some names off.
Well, yeah, I mean, you probably think Jay-Z needs to be nominated here. And, honestly, Jay-Z has made, he's done a few deals over the past calendar year and should be considered for this category.
I wouldn't even put Jay on there. I mean, Jay consistently does groundbreaking things, but I wouldn't even put Jay in there. I just want to be honest here. Why aren't we not putting Sexy Red in there? Why are we not putting her in that category, man? Like, she's been kind of like really grinding, bro. Like, she's been really grinding, and whether people like her music or not, I feel like she did a job at having a baby, keeping herself relevant. This lady was touring while she was pregnant. She was doing things outside of the music.
I agree with that.
She was going and being on wrestling. Like, what she was doing is like, come on, why is she not in that category? Let's really talk about it. But I agree, it should be based off what you're elevating outside the music to boost your profile. That's what I thought that category was about. And when we talk about Nicki with her tour grossing amount, when we talk about what Cam and Mace did with their show, when we're talking about what 50 did with the production, the film studio in Shreveport, those are good reasons. I can even give Fat Joe some credit because he maneuvered to podcasting to getting his own show on Stars. That's pretty dope. That's
we'll see what that show actually, the fruit that show bears. Because I will say this, man, and no disrespect, but they tried the talk show thing with Fat Joe a couple of times, and it didn't really catch. I know that he had the show on Revolt. I remember he had that show, it was like a tunnel or whatever, where they would go down El Chapo's tunnel or whatever, and he was interviewing people. And again, he had the whole Joker thing. It's a learning curve, and not everybody's going to be a natural at it. But I do think that Fat Joe's been getting these show opportunities for a minute now, and we haven't really seen them catch to the level of a Gillo and Wallow.
Why are they not in there?
Yeah, exactly. Or a Joe Budden.
Not in there, bro. Like, I know it's hip hop, but like I said, like, there's certain individuals like. I think
Math Hoffa, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, why is Math not in there, man?
Yeah, like, these guys, their shows caught, and they did their shows without having the mainstream back them off top, and they weren't as notable names as a Fat Joe as well.
I want to walk back a statement. I said I think Drake and Kendrick is on there based off like their beef. Of course, that has correlation to the success of whatever happened this past year. But I think the reason why they put Drake in there is because of what the tours.
Okay. I can see that. And same with Kendrick. They both did incredible numbers with their tours, and those
are the only things that I could think of. But yeah, we gotta get more in depth with what the criteria is for that one. But
yeah, and touring is the ultimate hustle, and I'll give you that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that, but Cardi B ain't really tour like that. She ain't put out no music like that. She's had a very, I ain't saying that she ain't working, but by standards of most artists and the work that you have to put in, she's been very fortunate to have such a successful career and not have to make a whole lot of material.
Yeah, I gotta give her credit, man. I gotta give her credit.
Fortunate position to be in. What we talking about? How long has it been, man? This is 6 years since her debut album, and we really didn't have much before it and nothing after. You had some mixtapes and stuff. She hadn't even put out a mixtape, man. And, and since she's made this album, how many albums has Megan put out? Megan has put out so many mixtapes and albums in that 6-year period that Cardi B's put out nothing. And, same thing with Lotto. Lotto's put out a lot of work. Even Sexy Red's put out a lot of work. And, not pitting one against the other, I get that. But the fact that she's still relevant and still a big name out here, she's very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man. We see that Meg leads a lot of categories. I see she's kind of he's kind of
leading category. Yeah, she's kind of got 12 nominations.
Yeah, she's kind of popping right now. I just seen her in in a commercial with the NFL recently for a Pepsi. You
Megan,
know, she's kind of popping right now, man.
You want me to go through her
Yeah,
nominations
let's see, because I
before
see
we move
that.
on?
Yeah, definitely.
Let me see. Let me find this real quick. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Talk about all the stuff that Megan got going on where I find all of her nominations. Let's see. BT. Because I think I have it here.
Yeah,
and she just hosted the MTV Awards too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She has a pretty good year. I mean, she has a big she has a big push, you know, and
Huge.
I find it interesting with these with these women in the industry. They've figured out a way how to maneuver outside of the music. Damn, they're using the music as a stepping stone. And I can't be mad at it. Get your money. We know, you know, music doesn't really generate a lot of money as far as album sales because it's streaming era, but yeah, man, she had a big year. I can't hate on Meg, man.
Here are her nominations.
Yeah.
She got 12 nominations. She's nominated for Hip Hop Artist of the Year, Hip Hop Album of the Year with Megan, Song of the Year, Mamushi, Best Hip Hop Video with BOA, Best Featured Verse, Wannabe, Impact Track, Hiss, Best Collaboration, Bongos, Wannabe, and Mamushi, Lyricist of the Year, Hustler of the Year, Best Live Performer. Now, going through all of that, I don't know how many of these she's actually going to win, though.
I think she deserves to be in all those ones you named. The only thing I don't know about it said what was it for Hiss? What was it?
Impact Track.
People were talking about it because she addressed a lot of stuff. I don't know.
They're not like us got that category.
Yeah, I don't know if the impact is like what I guess. I mean, I don't know, but everything else, I feel like she deserves to be in. I mean, she
Best Feature Verse, Kendrick's winning that too. He's gonna win that for Like That.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Song of the Year, Not Like Us again.
Yes.
Hip Hop Album of the Year. I don't know who else is in that category, but she might have a chance there. Hip Hop Artist of the Year, that's going to Kendrick. The big question is, man, is Kendrick going to show up to this show?
My biggest question is a lot of people going to show up to the show. You think Nicki's going to be there? You think Drake's going to be there? Like,
oh, I know Drake's not going to be there, but all the love and Not Like Us is about to get. Drake's not going to be there. No.
But it is telling if you get Kendrick there. I think that's where you do get a W. If you manage to get Kendrick there, it's a win.
We give him 11 nominations and, you know, use his song as the theme song of your show and all of that, and he still doesn't come. You need to shut down the doors of your award show. Man.
Yeah, man. In a show,
you can't even get the people that you gave 11 and 12 nominations to come to your show. Your show's useless.
Yeah, and it's in Vegas this year. It's usually in LA. It's in Vegas this year. It's on the West Coast still.
You just got back from Vegas, man. How was Vegas? By the way,
man, I'm still trying to recover. I just got in this morning, and it's funny because I'm half asleep. I had a red eye overnight flight, and
I didn't know if you were gonna make it to the show today, man.
I slept all day getting in, but I was going to the airport in Vegas, and as soon as I get up there to my gate, I see Big Boy from Outkast at the ATM machine. I'm just like, oh shit, it's Big Boy. You know, my brother seen him first. And he was like, oh, this Big Boy. Oh, what's up, legend? He was real cool, real humble, but he was taking money out the ATM, man. I don't want to be that guy. I try to respect these artists. You know, I don't want to be like, remember Eminem, he was talking about The Way I Am. He was talking about you can't take a shit without a fan standing by. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be that guy. You know, it's like, those one of those moments you just have to, you know, I spoke, he spoke, and kept it moving. That was one of those things you just gotta be in the moment. Everything's not for the internet. People say, "Oh, if you didn't document it, if you don't have video or picture, it ain't real."
Yeah, I don't believe.
I don't care about validation, man. I seen a legend. I spoke, he spoke. We kept it moving, man. But yeah, Vegas it was a lot going up there. It was a iHeart Music Festival going on up there, so I'm pretty sure that's probably what he was up there for. The iHeart Music Festival.
I think he was up there for the Raiders halftime show. He performed.
Okay, I didn't catch that game, which is funny. Yeah. I went to the Las Vegas Aces game when I was up there, but I didn't catch the Raiders game because they were playing the Panthers. I didn't want to see that. But yeah, that's new news to me. He did the halftime show, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. But
was out there. Tretch was out there. I saw pictures of a lot of it. So yeah,
Yeah,
baby.
it was lovely. I always have a good time out there, man. I low key want to go back because the BET Awards is going to be there in October. But yeah, man, it was a good vibe.
Well, I think I'm gonna make this prediction and we can move on and start talking about some of this music that came out Friday. Sure. I think that Kendrick will show up. I think he kind of has to show up. I think it's really disrespectful if you get nominated 11 times and don't show up to that award show. I do think that him performing there will be a big moment for that award show. I think that's going to be a step in the right direction as far as like what you said, having better performances. I think that Megan needs to show up too. They need these people to show up for this award show to make sense. I don't think in this time period, well, I'm a firm believer that I think award shows kind of need to go away silently. But BET definitely doesn't need BET Awards and a BET Hip Hop Awards. They're pretty much the same at this point. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, we're not in the era where you got Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer hosting the BET Awards, and you got Yolanda Adams doing her segment, and you got, you know, saying the gospel, and you got the R&B, you got the legends, you got James Brown and Michael Jackson coming out in the opening, and then you got some rap stuff. Like BET Awards is not that anymore. You can't tell a real difference between the BET Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards anymore, period. I'm interested to see what these ciphers are going to look like. I think the ciphers for the BET Hip Hop Awards have kind of become the slam dunk contest for the NBA, right?
Yeah.
But see, we're at that point now where people don't want to just see, you know, the guys who aren't big time on these joints. It's weird because you want to see a dope cipher, and you know that some of the biggest names in hip hop really aren't the best lyricists and the best people in the cipher. But I think that makes your cipher stronger if you are able to have a Kendrick in there. You kind of need a Kendrick in there. You need a J. Cole in there. You need these guys in there.
Me going outside of myself here, Mike, for Kendrick saying that the culture wanted him and he's for the culture and he celebrated being the guy for the culture. Do you kind of think it's kind of like his duty to be there?
It is. It is.
So does it look bad more so on him, or does it look bad on BET if he doesn't show up?
It's both. But I think that, you know, when it comes to artists, people are such fans of artists, they'll find a way to defend and justify anything their artist does. So publicly, it'll look worse on BET because nobody is going to sit there and critique Kendrick. They're going to say, well, he didn't show up to the award show because the award show's trash, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
give him real reason to make artists want to show up. Like, if he doesn't show up, it's not going to be like, that's why I said I got to look outside of myself and ask that question. Because a lot of artists haven't been showing up to the BET Awards for a long time, bro. It doesn't start with just Kendrick. If he does.
It doesn't. But you know what? If they want these institutions that give them the proper praise to stay around, at some point you have to show that institution love too, you know? And it starts with showing up to something like this. Like you said, it's in Vegas. What reason would you have to not show up to an award show that basically you're the headliner at? I mean, when we look at the people who lead nominations, those are who the headliners are. If we look at the Grammys and they say, okay, the leading nominees this year at the Grammys are, you know, Taylor Swift, you know what I'm saying, Megan, whoever, they're showing up because you're the headliners. You got 8 nominations. You got 12 and 11 nominations. If you don't show up, you're right. This should look bad on you, but with it being BET, I don't know. People will find a way to make it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
People will find a way to make it look bad on BET's end.
So yeah, that's why I said without me being outside of myself, I had to ask that question: is this his duty to be there, or is like who gets the blame if they don't? Is it BET being bad for that? Like, do you put him in these categories because you feel truly these nominations because you truly feel he deserves it, or is it just a play to get him there? You know,
I think it's what shows
do that. And this will be big, man. I'm not mad at it. It's a win if he goes there. But if it's not, it's like, okay, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that either because, like I said, artists haven't been showing up there historically for a minute.
Megan's nominations kind of look India Irish to me. It might be a little bit before your time, but she had a whole lot of nominations at the Grammys and didn't win. I don't think she won any of them. But when you look back at it, it's like the categories that she was in, it's like, well, I see why she didn't win that, and it just, from what I see from some of these Megan categories, just going through it, I mean, they can't shut her out. She's got to win a good amount, but a lot of the ones that she's nominated in, I see Kendrick winning, and if he didn't win, it would look weird,
Yeah.
Because, like that has to be feature verse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. Okay. You want to start with Future? You want to start with MC Lyte? Or
let's start with Future. Let's get in the Future.
All right, man. Well, Future dropped his mixtape, Mixtape Pluto. The artwork at the beginning, or not the beginning, the artwork for the mixtape was the iconic Dungeon family house.
Yeah, man. I love
Wade's mother's house. I love the album cover. This is where the term Dirty South, all that stuff came from. I'm glad we started the show talking about the Dungeon family legends, Outkast. You just had a run-in with Big Boy and all that, and everything comes full circle. For people who don't know, Rico Wade, producer, 1/3 of Organized Noise, just passed away not too long ago. Rest in peace to Rico Wade. The man that put Outkast on, the man that put Goody Mob on, he is also Future's cousin. And so Future's second generation Dungeon family. And, he is paying his level of homage with this album cover. Now, the mixtape started off very strong. And this is the critique I've had with Future for a long time. It's like he knows where to go. It's very Kanye West-like.
Yeah.
He knows what gets people going, and then he starts to just try something different or go in his own lane and go off the beaten path. And I think that the projects lose steam when he does that. And like the first 3-4 songs on here, and then it kind of tapers off a little bit. What was your reaction listening to the mixtape?
There's multiple things. The first big glaring hole is the features that people were expecting. I think they were expecting, with talks of a feature with Travis Scott and one with Gunna. He didn't appear on there. So I want to know why those features didn't appear on there.
Gunna said it was business. That's what he posted or something like that.
Okay. And then the second one is the thing I do want to show praise of is the homage he paid to Rico, and I do like the cover of it, and I do like his explanation as to that because he is second generation Dungeon family.
Yep.
We get into the music. There's a lot of redundancy of this mixtape. I do like that he went back to Pluto, but that's a statement to me for Future. You go back to Pluto, I'm expecting that, and I felt like you kind of went into that for the first few songs. Like I said, it's top heavy, like you were saying. I say it's a fairly lengthy mixtape, but I feel like it's really like redundant. It didn't have the impact that I was expecting from this mixtape. It has some joints on there, but a lot of people also have to realize he's given us a lot of music this year. He gave us 2 albums, and he give us a mixtape. And I always separate his mixtape from albums because I think the approaches be different sometimes. But it was okay. It was straight. I could play this if I'm pregame, if I'm going out somewhere or whatever, but I feel like it didn't have those big records on there like I wanted for a Future mixtape. So
and for a third project for this year, you kind of expect that, right?
Yeah. So it's like there's some times where there were some records on there that was like, all right, you doing this thing on this, but honestly, it wasn't fully what I was expecting. So it did go under my expectations, but I don't know, man. Future has a way of tapping into different modes. You have, the Future Hendrix, you have that sound, you have the Pluto sound, you have like different bags he could jump into, kind of like what you said with Kanye. And as far as this mixtape, I feel like it was kind of under delivered in my opinion, but it has some joints on there. But there's some glaring holes for there. I could have made some bigger impact as far as records.
Started off extremely strong, I felt like,
Yeah.
and then, like I said, once you start getting into, for me, and this is me, right? I feel like when Future starts getting into that R&B bag and stuff, it's like he kind of loses me. Like he's, you know, he can make some radio songs, and you could hear the records on here that were meant for the radio, and you could hear the records that were meant for the streets. And to me, I think this is kind of like, you know, people are probably gonna laugh when I mention this, but it's like Jay-Z, man. It's like, I like when Jay-Z makes shit for the streets, and you could tell the things that Jay-Z organically would like to make for himself. And you can tell when Jay-Z's making stuff for other people. And I feel the same way about Future. Like, I could tell the stuff that Future probably was in the studio like, yo, this goes. I want to make this. The energy is different. And then you can hear the stuff that's like, okay, well, this is for the radio. I don't know if he was like totally locked in the whole effort. And again, Chris Rock said this a long time ago when Chris Rock used to do little editorials in, I think it was The Source, either XXL or Vibe, one of those magazines back then. He would always say, and he was right, he was like, when artists put their singles at the end of the album, you could tell that, you know, they didn't have direction for that. And I feel the same way about when artists make a very lengthy effort. It's like, you're not really locked in anymore. It's kind of like you're just adding fluff at this point. Like when you're in school and they say, yo, I need 1,000-word essay or whatever. And you get to that, you're starting to count words now. I don't feel like this was a focused record. I think it's too long. And when people are making long albums like this, it seems like just a streaming play at that point. And I think the streaming era has really killed a lot of focused records that should be 9 or 10 songs. And now they're like 18 songs because you're trying to capitalize on the streams. And the music suffers.
Yeah. I'm not against Kendrick feet. I mean, not Kendrick. What the hell am I going? Future feet in the streets. I'm not against Future feet in the streets, but like I said, I need a better effort at that. I need a bigger. Usually with, you know, mixtape Future, we get those big records. You know what I'm saying? Like or those bigger joints that you could hear in the club or something like that. There's records that ride. Me as a DJ, there's joints I could play. You know, but I feel like it just didn't have that big sound on here. But this is Future trying to feed the streets, man. You get album Future and you get mixtape Future. I separate those people. Those are two different people to me.
Future is a unique artist in that sense where he can separate, where, you know, he's so big that you still feel like he is in tune with the streets and what's going on. He never really feels like he's removed. Unless he's doing, like, you know, the mainstream stuff. Like you said, he can kind of turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah,
like Pluto, he can give you the Future, he can give you the Future Hendrix thing. And he's always done that seamlessly. And I think that he's done a very good job over his career of always giving you those dynamics. So he never really feels lost. He never really feels like he's out of touch to the point where it's like, yeah, you ain't getting mixtape Future back. Now, when I saw this album cover, you know, I couldn't help but think like, yo, I feel like I'm going to get, you know, Dirty Sprite 2 type level of approaches here, you know, and it started off that way. I can't front. It did. And his efforts always start off this strong. But I think when you're judging a Future album or Future mixtape, it's all in the depth of the project. You got to get to song 9, 10, 11, 12 and see how consistent that is, because they always start off strong.
You know, I would love to have had some people from Dungeon on there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just because of the whole paying homage or something. Give me something that's kind of.
I thought we were going to get that. I thought we were going to get Gift or something like that, you know. Yeah. And I wonder why that doesn't happen. I don't know if it's a vibe thing, because all of them respect each other and love each
Mhm.
other's work and they support each other's work. Have we gotten the Future and Killer Mike effort, like, on Future stuff, like Killer Mike feature on Future's material?
I'm not gonna say yes. I'm not gonna say no because I truly don't know. I haven't
I
heard it.
know the Future has been on the Killer Mike song or two, but I don't know if we've gotten it the other way around. Janelle Monáe's second generation Dungeon family,
Yeah,
a lot of talented individuals, second generation. And yeah, I
I
think that
just
there
think
could have been a reach for more of that,
yeah, it could have been. It could have been. It could have been better. This could have been a really good impacting mixtape.
Yeah.
There was some missed opportunities here, man. But I appreciate him being consistent and putting out music for his fans, man. I can never hate an artist putting these records out. One thing I know about artists is, you can put it out. If it don't work, get your ass back in the booth and create something else. Just
Well,
create, man.
he's a person who does that.
Yep.
MC Lyte also dropped Friday.
Yeah.
MC Lyte dropped One of One. It's her first album in 9 years. I went straight to the record with her and Queen Latifah. When I saw Queen Latifah was on the album, shout out to MC Lyte.
I love the album cover.
I love the album cover too, man.
Yeah.
It just shows you how long she's been at this.
Yeah.
When I heard that record King with her and Queen Latifah, I was hoping to hear both of them, trade bars.
I was hear a verse.
Especially we talk about legends who have never really given us collaborations before. And Queen Latifah still raps on a very high level.
Yes.
Right now at this date. And I think that, Queen Latifah as an MC is underrated. I think her overall impact and legacy in hip hop is extremely underrated. And to me, they're two of the best MCs to ever do it. Not, male, female, whatever you want to say. And I love the record. I love the sentiment of the record. I wish we could have gotten a Queen Latifah verse on the record.
Yeah, I wish we could have got a verse.
But the first thing that I thought about is how great MC Lyte sounds. Like, it's something to be said about MCs who've been doing this for 30 plus years and they still sound refreshing and they still sound as good as they sounded in previous decades. We talk about this with Jadakiss all the time. Like, it's super impressive that Jadakiss still sounds as good as he did in the 90s, if not even better. Black Thought's one of those too. Common's one of those too. And to hear MC Lyte, and I think her voice is a big part of who she is, other than, her being the lyricist that she is.
Yeah,
she does
big voice
everywhere. She's the voice of so many award shows. She has
the voice of her BT Award.
I think the Grammys and stuff too.
Yeah.
She has such a distinctive voice and she sounds so great on this album. And I think that, the direction of this album, the production choices of this album, the lyricism on this album, and, her execution on this album is extremely impressive. Again, our OGs coming forth with impressive efforts. It's another thing that the BET Awards could really highlight as well. But, what am I saying? Well, who am I?
Here's my thing. I want to give MC Lyte her flowers because I think she's a female MC that doesn't get a lot of credit when we talk about female MCs. Because for me, she was one of the hardest. She was one of the hardest, man. MC Lyte was one of the hardest. So when I have these legends, when I view these legends when they come out and drop albums, I have no expectations. I'm just like, I want to ask you the questions of what inspires you to want to make music in this present day.
Well, you don't have to,
because you're only competing with yourself. You're not competing with nobody else. You're not in competition with other artists of your time. It's like now you're just competing with self. And I always wonder why, like, this is purely the love for the music, because we know album sales doesn't generate much. This is love for the music. So I love that she came out and did this, and the OGs have to come out and do it because we have the present day artists that are not putting out music of quality. And I never want that to overshadow the efforts here, because I think there's some glaring moments in this album. The features, I like that she has that feature with Stevie Wonder in Common. When I seen that on the track list, I was like, yeah.
Going straight to that, right?
Yeah. Another glaring highlight on this album is Lyte Ghost. Lyte and Ghost and Lil Mama. You know what I'm saying? Like, which when I read the track list and I seen those names, I was like, that's an odd pairing, all three on that record. But I like what they were talking about. And like I said, I really don't like when artists talk up about the industry and the things of the industry, just industry going against it. I think this record for me was more so talking about the mishaps of the industry, what they do to you, and kind of educating you on what to do. So on your masters. You know what I'm saying? They're actually talking about the game, what it has done to their peers or them, and they're telling you, hey, it happened to me. Don't let this happen to you.
Giving
I feel it's a
game.
reflective album.
Yeah, they're giving game. Like that's
Yeah.
what this is supposed to be about. And really, when you think about it, when OGs step outside and they're making efforts and they're making music, isn't that what the expectation really should be? OGs coming through, giving you game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
she
it's
gave a lot of
whenever we see OG come outside, period. We don't want to see the OG come out there and try to do the things that the young people are trying to do. It's pulling the young people to the side and their peers aside and giving them game on their experiences and, what they've been able to take from, this industry or life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was definitely substance on this album, man. Like, and then I like that. The same thing I like about LL and what I like about MC Lyte's albums, you could tell the effort was there to create the best project they could.
Yeah.
And that's something I can't, people could talk about, oh, it's not for me and not for us. The content's there, what they set to put is there, the effort is there. They put a lot of effort into these albums that a lot of artists are not doing anymore. They're throwing out this microwavable stuff and no content. And like I said, I feel like all of this do serve a purpose. Everything doesn't have to be, of something, but at least let it be glaring to what your demographic is. And I feel like some of this stuff is like very empty in music. It's very hollow. And I like that these legends are coming in and they're being reflective. They're giving game. They're putting efforts into the music. I like that LL did his trial, like his run to promote the album. A lot of artists are not sitting down with everybody. He's sitting down with everybody from the Breakfast Club to Charlemagne himself to all these hip hop podcasts. You can't ask for that, more than anyone else. But for Lyte, she didn't have to do this. We see where hip hop for women is right now. And this is the total opposite of that. But it's not shitting on that either. She's giving game. She's being reflective of her journey. And I feel like she did put effort into this. And it's not a short album either. That's I could tell there was an effort into delivering. Like I said, my expectations wasn't on the top of the hill for what I wanted to sound like. But I feel like she hit the check mark for what it is she wanted to do and get across. I also like her feature in the beginning with Money Long and Mary Mary. It jump starts the album from the theme that I feel like we're gonna get. I like that she still had an interlude. She had Avion Crockett. And we know he did his whole hip hop movie or something like that, or what he had last year or earlier this year or whatever. So I thought that was dope. She had a Q-Tip record.
Yeah.
To me, it could have been a stronger Q-Tip joint. After I hear the LL, it could have been stronger, but I'm not mad at it either. So I feel like she was given a lot of game. I love that she had the record with Raheem Devon and Big Daddy Kane and Salt Pepper. Like I like the features, man.
Dope moments in here, man.
Yeah, I like the features. It's reflective. I think she's dropping a lot of game, a lot of jewels here. To be in the
it's
game,
all love and respect too. Like you can hear the respect,
To be in the game for this long and being where the state of hip hop is for not only just rappers but female rappers, and she comes with this. She didn't have to do this. That's the thing about a person like LL, MC Lyte. They don't have to make music anymore.
Common ain't got to do what he's doing either. I mean, Common and Pete Rock, man, that was a gift. Like they don't have to do this. What I will say though, when we talk about legacy, and I know for me growing up in the 90s, Lyte was slightly before my time because I kind of came up in the time of, Kim, Foxy, the Brat and all of them doing what they were doing, and Eve towards the end of the 90s. Lyte was always considered to be the GOAT. And I think over time, with the impact of somebody like a Lil' Kim, and then you have, Nicki following that, and what we see in female, hip hop today, it's like you said, Lyte's not mentioned as much as she once was in those previous decades. And it's hard to even I don't even like compartmentalizing, like saying like, oh, best female MC all time and all that. It just seems kind of like a category that may not even need to be anymore, right? Since everybody's kind of in one pot. Like, how great of an overall MC are you, right? Lyte was the first solo female MC to really make that mark like that. Like Roxanne Shante, yes, she had the she had the record, but she didn't have the album that Lyte had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lyte dropped the album, and Salt and Pepper was a group, right? And so it was Lyte, and she was that juggernaut, and she can't be forgotten. Her impact is why we got the Lauryn Hills, the Brats, you know what I'm saying? And even Kim and people like that. Like, she showed that she could stand alone with the other male MCs that were out there and hold her own from jump. And she was so young when you think about it. Like, I think Roxanne Shante kind of set that foundation to show, like, yo, I can rhyme with the guys, yada, yada. And MC Lyte took that to that next level and dropped that album that delivered on that.
Yeah, and MC Lyte wasn't my era, but I listened to MC Lyte's music. Like, as a kid, like, it didn't come out around that time when she was at her peak, where around where I was old enough. But I still could appreciate it. One of my favorite records from MC Lyte is Georgie Porgy.
That is my favorite record.
I feel like Lyte she's a legend, man. She's solidified, and you can't get me to say anything bad about it. If I don't like it, I'll be like, it wasn't for me. But this album, for me, I feel like it was reflective. It gave game. It shined light. It gave you another form of female rappers, perspective with what's out right now. And like I said, I can't go against the content, man. I can't go against it. She kept it hip hop. And I feel like it's a win for hip hop when our legends still want to make this music in the era of where things are right now, and still staying true to whatever their core beliefs and values are. So, I like it.
When we talking about female MCs, I view her in the same way that I view Rakim. I think that Rakim, in my mind, he's the greatest lyricist I've ever heard, because I understand what was before him. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, dude, where did you come from with this? And she didn't have many things that were before her, and being that, woman that was jumping out there and holding her own and dropping songs like Cha 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 and dropping 10% Dish. She's battle tested. You know what I'm saying? She's got the radio records. She's made the albums. She's got records like Cappuccino. She's got the Poor Georgies out there. Like, her catalog is incredible. She's made that transition. She actually made transitions through the 90s with like Keep On, Keep Keeping On. I didn't really love Roughneck, but Roughneck was a hit. And I think Roughneck was one of those moments, like when Kane was trying to kind of adjust to where the game was at the time. It's like, but yeah, she's shown the longevity and her impact. The other MCs that she's impacted over the years, and yeah, man, I still think she's a top 3 female MC all time if we're gonna do that. But you know what I mean?
Well, I feel like she definitely is solidifying a legend, and hey, hats off to her for what she did and the effort she put into this album, and still keeping it hip hop and still having the content there, giving the game, being reflective. I can't ask for more from a legendary artist. What we don't get from a lot of legendary artists on Wax is them giving game and still willing to put effort into stuff as such she did. I feel it's, I can't be mad at it. I'm never going to hate on it. You're not going to get me say anything about MC Lyte,
and we got to support this, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need more of our OGs to come out there and make quality material, because when they make albums, and we're going to talk about Blue and Exile's new album in a second before we close out, but when certain people make albums, you could tell that it's not to bump up streams. And that's no disrespect to, Future's album and what I said earlier, but that's just where the game's at, right? You got a lot of executives and even artists' mindsets like, I got to put out a bunch of songs so that all of these things can stream in the first week and my numbers can be bumped up. I don't think when MC Lyte put together this album, that was a thought, right? I don't think that when LL Cool J and Q-Tip put this together, that was a thought, or Blue or whatever. They're trying to make cohesive efforts because that's the era they come from. And as listeners, we gotta appreciate that contrast as well. We gotta appreciate when somebody wants to give you a body of work and not really care how many songs it is. It could be 10 songs, it could be 11. You know, I think that's the interesting thing about the streaming era. Yes, the numbers are going to be kinder to you with longer albums or albums with more songs. But I think in this era, the best albums we're going to get are going to be 7 to 9 songs. I think that's where we're at right now. Concentrated efforts.
Yeah, with Lyte, man, this is another thing I want to say. She's also, I don't know if her media run is like LL's, but she did the Breakfast Club, which she talked about a lot. And like I said, man, her music stands alone. We can't debate it. We're not gonna rewrite history. She's solidified.
Oh yeah.
I give it up to these OGs that still have the love for it, that still want to get in the booth and make it where the times we are now. And don't worry about the peanut gallery. They're staying true to what they are. And when I want to see these artists now, is I don't want to see you making the music to try to keep up with the times. If you figure out how to mesh and blend them, great. But you staying true to yourself and still have it where it's still present day and doesn't sound like dated and stuff, it's just like, man, I can't be mad at it. I can't hate it. The content's there. I love it. I love that she big up us on Kings. You know, man, and the accomplishments that she was talking about on the record. Like I said, man, I would love a Latifah feature as far as a verse on there, but it's cool to even hear him collaborate.
Yeah, and maybe we can get a remix. Who knows? You know?
Yeah, I love the features on the album, man. And it's like, hey, man, kudos to you. Thank you.
Well, you know what? Since you say that, let's get a Queen Latifah rap album too. Since all the OGs are coming outside and making quality efforts, I would love for Queen Latifah, another person who doesn't have to do any of these records. I would love for there to be a Queen Latifah rap album.
The thing about Latifah, which was like Heavy D, is like they still kind of release music. It just wasn't always hip hop. Like they gave you, she gave you like don't quote me on this, but did she give an R&B album at one time? Like,
yeah, it was like a jazz album.
Yeah,
I want to hear a Queen Latifah rap album, and I only say that because she's rapping at a really high level. I remember when she jumped on Rhapsody's album. Was it the Eve album in 2019? She was spitting like, and every time I hear Queen Latifah now, she is spit, and I think that,
spit. Yeah, she always been able to spit. So yeah, man. I would like to hear her do a record with Moni Love again, like the president her Moni. Like I feel like
I haven't heard Moni in a minute.
But she's present, man. She does media. She did interviews. She did Drink Champs a couple years ago. So she's present, but as far as making music, hey man, if it's gonna be a research,
I always love Moni Love, man.
Me too, man. I had the records as a kid, man. Moni in the middle of all that.
Yeah, man. Oh man, the native tongue, and shoot, since we got Q-Tip in the fall, you know what? I'm not even gonna put that out there.
Yeah, I just want to hear a resurgence of winners, man. Let's see what you got, man. If these current artists are not gonna make it, then put out music and of quality or whatever, hey, legends, show them how it's done. Then what I'm saying? Like there's still a place for you in hip hop. We got to stop writing off our artists because they haven't made songs or music in X amount of time. Hey, drop when you want to drop. OGs, y'all solidified. Come with it. Let's see what you have. That's why I want to know. We got to hear what they were at when they were young. I want to hear where you are now. You can reflect on your career and everything. That's your advantage of being an older hip hop artist. We got you in certain stages, but we never really hear from our artists once they reach a certain level. It's like they stop making music. Nah, let's come with it. R&B artists of certain ages still put out music. They still tour. Hip hop. If we want to do this resurgence of legends, I'm not mad at it. Let's do it.
Are you a Blue fan?
Oh, who?
We gotten into Blue. It's Blue in Exile. Blue from the West Coast.
No, I'm not too hip.
Yeah.
Well, honest, I'm not too hip.
I've always thought that Blue is probably one of the more underrated MCs of his era. Blue makes me feel like how I feel. Excuse me, how I feel about CL Smooth. I think CL Smooth, P Rock CL Smooth, of course. I think that he was one of the more talented songwriters and MCs of that era that didn't really get the props that he deserved. I think that he put together quality hip hop records, classic hip hop records, him and Pete Rock. And I feel the same way about Blue and Exile. I think when they dropped Below the Heavens in 2007, obviously Graduation was going on, American Gangster was going on, and they never were like mainstream like that. They were always somewhat independent, so they weren't going to get that level of adulation that their peers got. And to double down on that, they kind of had that hieroglyphics thing going on. And what I mean by that, being from the West Coast and being on some boom bap, you know what I'm saying, rap shit, that puts you in a backward stance sometimes. It's almost like being a lyricist from the South in that way. If you don't match up with those sonics, people ain't gonna be checking for you like that. And I've always thought that Blue and Exile as well, because I like when they make records together. Exile's his producer.
I don't know how I never heard of this guy. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'll take
Blue.
all the hate on that one because I'm like, how did I never hear of this guy, man? I feel like I'm lost when it comes to that, man.
Yeah, this new album is indicative of that,
man. Like, I need to be hip to him. I need to go check that out.
Yeah, for sure. Mad Max with Super Chat says Blue is the lyricist y'all think Dot is. I listen, I can't disagree with that. I think that again, when you talk about having that mainstream backing, and I do think that, and that's why I will give Dr. Dre this. When Dr. Dre got behind Exhibit in the time frame that he did, in the time period he did, it was great to see somebody who was making noise, I guess, I don't want to say on the underground thing because he was a major artist, but who was not doing what the rest of the West Coast was doing, actually get that Dr. Dre cosign, and it took his career to that next level at that time.
It was hard.
Exhibit was hard. And really, when I think about it, there's a lot of correlations between Blue and Exhibit too. Now, they don't have the same approach to music, but the fact that they're from the West Coast and they make kind of East Coast have East Coast influence stylistically, and did things for the underground, I see a correlation there. But yes, this new effort, Blue and Exile, love the ominous word, more consistency, and many people feel like this is the album of the year contender. Not surprised by that, because again, this is Blue doing what Blue does. This is Exile doing what Exile does. This is what I'll say to you, and we can update this on next show as well. So, and I'm glad that you haven't really checked Blue and Exile. I want you to start with their first effort, Below the Heavens. Below the Heavens is such a dope album. Many people feel like it's the best hip hop album of 2007. Mad Max in the Super Chat says, listen to Mars remix on Atmospheres Airlines Volume 1. Mad Max also says he bodied Mars remix, Nas like pen on that joint. Blue's always been dope. But yeah, start with Below the Heavens, and then I would say listen to this album afterwards. And man, these guys, they have a chemistry that I think they were kind of ahead of the curve. They're part of the digital era, but I think they were ahead of the curve in the sense where they were bringing back that producer MC combination back in 2007. And we see this is kind of where the game has gotten back to,
Yeah, man. If y'all have y'all favorite Blue joint, send them to me, man, because this is an artist I'm not hip to, and I always support like artists out the West Coast because I feel like to an extent a lot of those artists still stay kind of true to like lyricism. What I heard Rage and all of them do on the Dog Pound album, man, and they made a video to it and they were spitting. So yeah, I'm always down to hear some good West Coast joints, man. So yeah, send it my way, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like Leroy said, Blue never chased the mainstream. And I think that for us hip-hop fans, I think that there's a level of appreciation for artists that do that, and I think that we should support those artists that do that because we do need that balance in hip-hop. It's great to have the super mainstream guys, but it's also great to have the people that are making the music for the people that are listening for the music. And I think we've gotten to a point where, it's kind of like basketball, man, where it's kind of an analytical game now. Everything is analytics and overdrive. And I think that's what social media has kind of done to our music as well. Everything is analytically based. And we're looking at, who has this amount of followers, these amount of engagements, this amount of likes. And it's hard to think that artists aren't approaching the way they make music with those things in mind as well. They're thinking about what's going to go viral. They're thinking about what song could actually do well on TikTok or, the microwavable stuff you're talking about. And I think that it's great to have certain people to dial that back, and they're willing to say, you know what, forget all of that. I'm going to make a great album. I'm just going to make great music.
Yeah. And what we know is when it comes down to, this thing in the industry, there's still a lot of politics. So a lot of your artists that are great in the right of lyricism are not always propped to the mainstream. And I think there's still a healthy balance. I think I like the mainstream. I like the underground. I like the backpack. Like as long as we keep on having the balance, the mixtape artists, I feel like hip hop will be fine. We miss with the balance being in disarray. It's like it's everywhere. We need to restore that balance of this because I think all of this is important. So yeah, I'm gonna check them out, man. I'm definitely gonna be.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a further conversation about Blue next show after you check it out. I love this. This is kind of like those reaction videos where you have a person who might not have heard Illmatic listening to it for the first time, and we can kind of do something like that. But yeah, I think Blue is definitely, in my opinion, the most underrated MC of his generation. Ahmad with the super chat says, Peace, Blue, and Exile are the new Pete Rock and CL Smooth top 5 album of the year, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of correlations between them, to me, and Pete Rock and CL Smooth. Pete Rock is Pete Rock, right? I mean, legendary, and to this day, one of my personal favorite producers, because I know what he can deliver album-wise. I know, the level of consistency. I love Pete Rock's drums. I always have. But CL Smooth doesn't get enough credit for writing a song like When They Reminisce Over You. There's not that many songs in hip-hop ever that are that well written. And not just that well written, but just that palatable from a radio, even club, if you want to go there, and on a mainstream level and the level of substance. Not many MCs could write that record. And when you factor in his performance ability on top of that, when you factor in his album making ability on top of that, CL Smooth is a great MC. I think what happened with CL Smooth, in my opinion, and I don't know, he was in a group with one of the greatest producers of all time, and none of us wanted to hear him rap over anybody's beats outside of Pete Rock's. I think that's what happened. And, and when it comes time to make an album without Pete Rock, like, how do you even pick beats when, you're used to rapping over Pete Rock's beats?
Before we get out of here, though, Mike, there's a nomination we did not cover with those beats for Hip Hop Awards, and that was that Producer of the Year award.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
There's a lot of things going on with that Producer of the Year award.
They have Pete Rock in there.
Yeah.
They have Hit Boy in there.
Q-Tip's in there.
That's probably, if there was a nomination that's worth something that I feel like it actually, they got it right for the people in there, I think that's a very good category nomination for who they have.
Well, see, Metro's in there, and I feel like,
yeah.
Well, see, this is where the real competition is going to come in at, because I'm glad that they put Pete Rock, Alchemist, and Q-Tip in there because, obviously they deserve that. But I think what it's going to come down to is Metro and Mustard. And I think, again, this depends on if Kendrick shows up or not. Anything that's associated with Like That and Not Like Us is going to win.
But Alchemist did 50 grams, I believe.
What's that?
I think Alchemist did Meet the Grams for Kendrick too.
He did, but this is all about Not Like Us.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Not Like Us is what all of this is about. The Super Bowl, halftime show, everything. So Mustard being on there, like Mad Max was like laughing my ass off. Mustard's in there. Yeah, he produced Not Like Us. And he could win this whole category just based on that alone. It's the biggest song of the year by far. And it's nothing even close. And if it's anything close, it's probably the Future record like that. I don't see Metro winning over. I don't see Metro winning over Mustard. I'm just gonna say it like that. Especially if Kendrick shows up and performs this record.
But this is a time where, how do you get it right? Do you go for the biggest song of the year, or are you going for what they did for the year as producers? Like, this is where BET is like, how we gonna shift this up? Because this is a category.
Metro's the safer pick in that, because Metro did the albums and he did the singles. So yeah, he's the safer pick here.
Yeah.
To me, when we're talking about producers, and maybe this is just me being a traditionalist, I look at producers like producer of the year. You got to go with the person that made the album and the body of work. I said when the LL record dropped, I think Q-Tip put his bid in for producer of the year for sure. But do I think that album's better produced than Common and Pete Rock's album? I don't. I think it took more chances, maybe. But if we're just talking from a quality standpoint, end to end, and both are quality, I would have to give the nod to Pete Rock's production on Common's album. They had some tough shit. I do think the Q-Tip took chances with the LL stuff. And he had LL rapping over things I never heard LL rhyme over, and taking on concepts that I've never heard LL take chances on. And that's a part of production too. But if we're just talking about straight up beats, I'm going to give that one to Pete.
But we know it's a show and it's clout based, so I think it's a toss up. Do we give it to Mustard, or do we give it to Metro? You know, because Metro gave us a lot, but Mustard gave us that one. Mustard gave us that one. So are they gonna go with just that? Like, I want to see how BET does with this, man. Because if
that's an interesting category,
then you can start talking Pete Rock's. You can start talking about Hit Boy and what he did with Nas. Like, come on, man. But
is Hit Boy in that category too?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's the best category they got to me.
Exactly. I wonder how they're gonna go about it. I wonder how they gonna pick, or what are you gonna go with? Because there's a lot of factors playing in this. What are you gonna take hip hop, or are you gonna? Yeah, man. I want to see how this is gonna go.
My prediction is Mustard, even though I think based on this show and what this show is about and this format of this show, I think Metro should win. I think Metro deserves to win the most, but I think that Mustard's going to win it. If I was picking through all of this, I'd probably go Pete. But
I think Metro, just the body of work that he's produced throughout this time, for Future, the impact of when he did BBL Drizzy, you know.
I was gonna say Mad Max
versus across the internet, like, oh yeah, Mad Max.
Mad Max said Metro made BBL Drizzy, he's winning.
I mean, it was everywhere. They'll split. I remember he DJ'd something at a baseball game, like an MLB game, and they did the BBL Drizzy. Like, there's a lot of stuff, man. He had people doing the challenge. Even Drake himself had to put it. I didn't like the song at all, but he even tried to.
Drake killed that. I actually like that song.
I don't like that song, but I'm not mad at it. It serves a purpose. Like, when I go to the club, I like to hear it, but I do not like that song. But based on the format of how this go and keeping it, I think it will be Metro. But like I said, do you give the Mustard for Not Like Us? Like, what are we gonna go with? The hot song, or the body of works that's been put out there? So I don't know. That's the one.
Real quick before we go. Are you hip to Jay Skis? He's one of Conway's artists.
I heard him on some tracks, but I haven't heard like body of work. Yeah.
Now he's an MC that he really puts together projects, man. I gotta give Jay Skis credit, man. And he's another person I feel like that the BET Hip Hop Awards, whatever, they can hone in on and really set a standard. Like, what happened to the times where publications and outlets would pick a certain talent and say, you know what, from a quality standpoint, we're going to kind of ride this talent and we'll still do all the other stuff that we need to do. But you see somebody who actually has something going and you get behind that person and it makes your platform better because you know what? You could say, yo, the first time I heard such and such, it's on BET or on that BET Hip Hop Awards. Maybe he'll be in that cypher. I will give them credit. Their cypher does do that, like where
they do.
Cypher gives people the opportunity to get noticed by folks that might not have seen them otherwise. And hopefully that cypher encompasses those things too. So the cypher is extremely important for the BET Hip Hop Awards. I honestly think it's their only draw at this point.
Yeah, and what they do, like 4 or 5 in one show, and like each there's like theme categories. I remember they had like this the shady one. They had did they have a TDE one?
Yeah, they did. That's when when
female rapper one. Break. Yeah, they did a female rapper one. They did an international one, which I thought was dope. So yeah, that is the basis for underground artists to shine and get their moment. So, like, I hope they revive it, make it better. I hope the themes are better. Like, I hope they don't miss because the VMAs was actually a success.
You know what? I thought the performances on the VMAs were very dope.
So
I don't know if it was a quote unquote success based. I mean, it came on Wednesday or whatever. But yeah, I guess for how successful that an award show could be in 2024, yeah, I think it actually was okay. I mean, Katy Perry getting her Lifetime Achievement Award and her performance on top of that was really dope. They did a really good job with the VMAs.
The VMAs. Here's the thing, Mike. For this to be a network that doesn't show music videos and you're doing a music video awards,
it's insane when you think about it.
Yeah,
you're already set up to mess up at this point. But I think where hip hop right now on a mainstream level is missing is a lot of quality. And I think on an underground or non-mainstream level, I don't even like saying underground, a non-mainstream level, there's a whole bunch of quality of hip hop right now. And I think that hip hop outlets that are mainstream outlets, they need to find a way to split that difference. And I also put this on the artists and the labels as well. There's no reason that we should have never gotten a Megan and Rhapsody collaboration at this point. At some point, somebody's got to think outside of the box and say, you know what, this artist is talented and they're making dope music and I like their music. I'm going to collaborate with them. We're tired of just seeing the same people that got millions and millions of followers collaborating with each other over and over and over again. It's hard for me to believe in this internet era that some of these bigger artists don't know who some of these smaller artists that are dope are. It's time for you to come together and collaborate and bridge that gap because the truth of the matter is many of the non-mainstream artists have more quality work right now, current quality work, than the mainstream artists. And y'all need to pull this thing together. They need your platform, if you will, and you need their quality. And at the end of the day, music wins. And I think that some of the stuff kind of starts with the award shows and some of the networks and the publications, but management needs to go ahead and make those things happen because I think that's also a barrier as well. It's like, yeah, you're not working with that artist. This artist ain't signed to us.
Well, I think that's not more so the issue of who signed with who for features now. I feel like it's like people take allegiance to certain people they align themselves with, and that's what prevents a lot of features from happening, especially in female rap. People are like, they're Team Nicki, they're Team Cardi. And so you see how that affects. But, I got to give it up to people that don't pick those allegiances and still like show love. I've seen what Sexy Red's doing on tour when she's bringing out certain artists to perform. She's showing love to artists. Another thing that I did like that Nicki did recently is she showed a lot of love to Eve. She penned an open letter to Eve about Eve talked about for her book, and Eve's doing a media run for her book and said a lot of things as far as her career and everything. So there are people that you know, find a way to show homage and show love to certain people. Hip hop is not always going to be friendly. Everybody is in camaraderie. It's not always like that all the time. But when
And you
it's
know what?
happening,
And I'm
great.
glad you mentioned that, and we can go off with that
Mhm.
because I was happy to see that post from Nicki because
Mhm.
Nicki always comes across as the one that's standoffish
Yeah, I love
and
it.
and aggressive to other female MCs. And I love the fact that she pinned that statement to Eve. And I thought that was really, really dope. You know what I'm saying? And that was good to see from not just both of them, but especially from Nicki. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing Nicki, I don't want to say pay homage, but just pay respect to somebody like Eve, who was open and honest about how she felt in that moment, and really a sign of unity coming from Nicki Minaj, which, you know, historically that hasn't really been her hallmark. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really dope because on the other end, if it was some drama and she was talking shit or whatever, it would be all over the place right now. It would be
Exactly, because she was
number
just like
one talking.
Jay. You know?
You know what I'm saying? So I want to make a point to, you know, acknowledge that and say how dope that was because, you know, if it went the other way, it would have been the click point of all of these podcasts today.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that does need to be raised up. Her showing love to Eve because, like,
Yeah.
when she was saying the things about the Super Bowl and the things about Jay, that's headline. Nicki this, that. But when she showed love to Eve, I don't see the same. You know, because at the end of the day, it's clickbait. You know, we want to do stuff that But I did love that she pinned out.
People would rather see the squabble than, you know what I'm saying, the showing love, and I think that's a big point for Nicki to, you know, show love to somebody like Eve and vice versa, you know. And I love the way that Eve even expressed, you know, what her feelings were on that set and being open and honest about it, but not being combative about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's love. Assignment for next week. Blue. I'm gonna send you some of the Blue albums, Blue and Exile albums. You know, not gonna be overwhelming, but like I said, we're gonna start with Below the Heavens, and then, you know what I'm saying, and go to this current effort and, you know, talk about Blue even more, man, because I think that there are artists that, you know, need to be given their flowers. I know for some podcasts and stuff, you know, it's not the most clickable shit all the time. But it ain't about that all the time.
Hip hop ain't pretty all the time, man. It's some bullshit sometimes too.
Yeah. It's about balance. Yeah. All right, man. Well, get some rest. I know you still recovering from Vegas and everything. And yeah, man, we're gonna stay on top of this music.
All right, bro. Stay up.
Yes, sir. All day. Like and subscribe, everybody.
Yes, sir.